Transnet pensioners have been in a legal battle with the utility for over 10 years. The pensioners say the utility has reneged on a promise to fully pay out their pensions. In 1989, the then SA Transport Services agreed to increase pension funds by 70% of the rate of inflation plus an annual top-up of inflation plus 2%. The agreement was upheld until 2003. Since then, only the 2% top-up has been paid. Freedom Front Plus has been campaigning on behalf of the pensioners. Advocate Anton Alberts, who is the chairperson of the Freedom Front, joins us now. Good evening, sir. Thanks very much for coming through. From where you sit, we did speak to the board a little earlier on, and then there was this explanation about how pension funds work, and essentially why it would be disastrous for the fund if they were to do what these claimants actually want, was that essentially collapse the scheme. Do you agree with that sentiment, more or less? I'm paraphrasing.
I think they are correct. It's a 79 billion rand claim. It's huge. It's the largest in the history of South Africa. So it will collapse Transnet. And of course, government is backing Transnet. They're guaranteeing all debts, which means the debt will then go on to the country as a whole. And it will actually, I think, collapse the South African economy, or at least, at the very least, send South Africa nosediving into junk status. So it's a huge claim, and therefore it's important that Transnet takes it seriously and settle with the pensioners, because it's the right thing to do from a human rights point of view. But it's
do you think it's possible for them to be able to settle without jeopardizing the fund and all that will come with that, the repercussions you are acknowledging it will have on the country as well?
Yes, well, the claim is very high, but if you look, there was a settlement discussion taking place the last 2 months, and during those discussions, the legal team on behalf of the pensioners claimed a certain amount, and it wasn't that high. It wasn't that 79 billion rand plus. It was much lower, but yet at that point even Transnet did not come to the party. And we are at a loss. Why? Because we even spoke to Minister Pravin Gordhan, and he acknowledged that they must find a way out of this quagmire.
So what did they say were the reasons they couldn't come to that point, which you say was a much lower sort of level than?
I have to tell you, I'm not sure, because I wasn't party to the discussions, those between the two legal teams. But the feedback that we did receive is that Transnet is not willing to go any higher than the counterclaim that they gave. But their claim is so low, it doesn't really benefit the pensioners that much. So the legal team decided to take the matter off the table and go ahead with the court case. But we do hope from our point that they do find a settlement. So,
but did you get a sense from what you were told, from the briefing that you got, did you get a sense that it was because Transnet was being intransigent, or was it because they did explain their situation, but unfortunately, whatever it was that they were coming up with, couldn't satisfy the pensioners' needs or demands?
Yes.
What was it?
It was a point where they, from the legal team of the pensioners, their point of view is that it wasn't enough. From Transnet's point of view, I can't really articulate why they decided not to go any further and try to meet them truly halfway.
So it wasn't that Transnet was dismissive?
I don't think so. To a degree, it might be a game that's played, because in the end, when the court case comes next year on the merits, they will have to settle, at the stairs in front of the courts. They will have to, due to the incredible amount of this claim that can harm South Africa as a whole. So they need to come to the party and settle beforehand, or right before the court start. But it is imperative that they take this seriously. And the sad thing about this, from a human point of view, is that the pensioners are all well-aged, and they are truly suffering. You know, some of them get 700 Rand a month, some of them get 1 Rand a month after deductions, medical aid deductions. So, and it's not a racial issue, it's pensioners who are black, white, coloured and Indian. They represent all of South Africa, actually. So to say, well, you know, we can acknowledge you helped to build the old railways that became Transnet today. It's because of you that we have the infrastructure, that we have the trains and so forth. We will give you what was promised to you in 1989. Because this comes from pre-94, you know, the old dispensation. They were supposed to settle the matter. They did not. And so it grew over the years. But we have to get to the point where we say, okay, let's finish this. It is just to give the pensioners what's due to them, and it's not the 79 billion necessarily. But a court can come and say, well, if you don't settle, we agree with the pensioners, and we say 79 billion plus interest. Because the Constitutional Court on a side issue ruled that the pensioners do have a reasonable prospect for success. So the Constitutional Court already said these people can be helped and should be helped. But now it's up to Transnet to say, outside the court, we will go the extra mile now and we will settle and make this matter go away.
Well, the board insists that it does want to settle, but there are realities that it has to take into account, and it's not for a lack of trying. Let's just take a listen to some of what the board member we spoke to earlier had to say.
Transnet is negotiating with the representatives of the class action and is putting forward a proposal to make a once-off bonus payment to the pensioners to address some of the empathy that we as an employer have towards the beneficiary of these funds. But to be clear, there is no legal demand in either of the two claims. Is that Transnet is extremely empathetic to the position of its pensioners, which is why we are proposing the rule amendment. As a board, we are supporting the proposal that has come to us. That is supported by the trustees as well as the company. And that will give a more equitable annual adjustment to the payment and not limit us to the 2%.
Extremely empathetic to the pensioners, he says, but the proposal that they have now tabled sort of does speak to that.
You see, the question I have to ask them is, why did it take so long to change the 2% rule? Because they only get 2% per annum increase. Why did they only change it now? We already asked in 2011 for them to change that rule. Now that the court case has evolved to a place where they are really going to be in trouble, now suddenly they're talking about that. So empathetic, yes, perhaps, I'm not sure about that. You know, and then they say, of course they will say that the pensioners don't have a case. But the case is quite clear. You know, the one part of the claim is based on a statutory debt. It's written into the law when the old railways changed to Transnet in the 90s. And it says there that the debt that must be paid will accrue interest 12% per annum, and that there is a debt that must be paid. So it's written in law that there's a debt, and they're not paying that. So they can't say, well, they owe them nothing or they're not guilty or anything like that. They do owe them. But they must give more than just a 2% increase. They must uplift the base. As I said to you, some of those pensioners get 1 Rand a month. Many of them get below 1,000 Rand a month. And they must uplift the base for everyone. So there must be an injection from outside that allows the base to lift. And then you can say, okay, we will give you annual increase per inflation. And we might give you a bonus here and there and so forth. But you cannot say we leave you where you are and then give you a 6% or a 5% per annum, because 5% of 700 Rand is nothing.
Just quickly before I let you go, if there's no agreement reached in now over the next couple of months, has a decision been taken to go back to court?
Yes, the legal team has taken a decision, and they've received instructions from the class, the pensioners, that they must go ahead with the case.
Okay, so we're going to leave it. Thanks very much for coming through. Advocate Anton Alberts, who is the chairperson of the Freedom Front Plus, who are assisting the Transnet pensioners.